Their message was never meant to be heard. Humans heard it, and everything changed. The dim corridors stretched endlessly into the shadows, carved deep within a barren asteroid ring. Sterile white panels gleamed coldly under harsh, buzzing lights. The air was heavy, suffused with the faint hum of alien machinery, a quiet yet oppressive reminder that this place was not made for comfort, but for control. Inside the Threx detention facility, silence ruled like a tyrant. It swallowed the faintest breath, the softest footsteps. Here, the strongest minds had shattered, bending to the merciless will of an empire built on cold logic and unyielding order. Every corner whispered stories of broken prisoners, their hopes extinguished beneath the weight of calculated psychological torment. This was the end of the line for those deemed threats by the Threx Dominion. But within these walls, one man's spirit burned quietly, untouched by despair. Elias Rourke, a human unlike any they had ever encountered. Elias Rourke sat slouched on the metallic bench of his cell, his lean frame scarred from years of battle. His eyes, sharp and restless, flicked toward the heavy door, as if daring it to open again. A smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. Sarcasm was his shield here, a weapon against the bleakness. So, what's next? Another round of break the human therapy? Bring it on. His mind raced, fueled by memories of his squad, the laughter and loyalty that still tethered him to a life outside these cold walls. The Threx saw him as a primitive animal, a fleeting glitch in their perfect order. But Elias was more than muscle and defiance. He was a storm of creativity and grit. Every insult hurled at him, every probe into his mind, only deepened his resolve. He wasn't just surviving, he was resisting. His thoughts, sharp and unyielding, whispered of hope and rebellion in a galaxy that had yet to witness the full force of humanity's will. The Threx Dominion observed humanity with a mix of confusion and contempt. To them, humans were wild, unpredictable, emotions driving them like a fire they could neither tame nor understand. In the cold calculus of galactic politics, this chaos was a flaw, a weakness to be exploited. Yet, despite their disdain, humanity had clawed its way to prominence. Against species shaped by centuries of order and logic, humans thrived on instinct, innovation, and fierce loyalty. They adapted to hostile worlds, forged alliances, and defied expectations with a raw energy that unsettled even the most disciplined Threx commanders. This clash, human passion against Threx precision, was more than a battle of armies. It was a collision of worlds, one that threatened to rewrite the balance of power in the galaxy. Before captivity, Elias was a ghost in the shadows, a special operations scout with an instinct for survival. Raised on a harsh colony planet where the thin atmosphere was a daily enemy, he learned early that strength meant adaptability. He moved through enemy lines like a shadow, gathering secrets, striking swiftly, and vanishing without trace. But beneath the hardened soldier was a man haunted by loyalty. His squad was family, and being left behind was a wound that never healed. His humor, sharp and biting, masked the pain of betrayal. Now trapped in Threx hands, every memory fueled a fire. He would not be broken, not while he still breathed. The Threx were a species molded by logic, raised to suppress every flicker of feeling. Emotion was weakness, disorder a threat to be eradicated. From infancy, Threx children learned obedience through strict drills and cold reasoning. Their culture was a fortress of reason, a monolith against chaos. To them, humans were a flurry of irrational impulses, a species that thrived on passion and unpredictability. The Dominion's leaders saw human emotion as a virus, one that could unravel the delicate threads of their empire. They aimed to break Elias Rourke's spirit, to erase the chaotic spark that made him human, and reduce him to a docile tool. But in doing so, they underestimated something fundamental: the strength born from chaos, from the very heart of humanity. Rourke was dragged through cold steel corridors to the recalibration chambers, a hell beyond pain. The chamber's walls pulsed with eerie lights, ancient alien technology thrumming with malevolent intelligence. This was no ordinary torture. It was a war on the mind itself. The machine emitted a low, hypnotic hum as Rourke was strapped down. Invisible tendrils probed his brain, distorting reality, erasing memories, twisting thoughts. The chamber shattered the senses, drowning victims in illusions and despair. Designed to strip away identity, it promised submission. But as the machine pressed its will on Elias, his mind clenched tighter. Beneath the fog of pain, something else took hold: defiance, stubborn and fierce. 2 weeks passed in a blur of agony and relentless mental assault. Each day, the Threx pushed harder, probing, dissecting, attempting to erase the man beneath the scars. They expected silence, compliance. Instead, they met laughter. Inside his mind, Rourke fought battles no one saw. Memories of home, the faces of his squad mates burned like fire in his soul. He wielded sarcasm like a weapon, mocking his captors even as his body screamed for relief. The psychological warfare was brutal, but it faltered against his iron will. The Threx believed they were masters of breaking spirits, but Elias's resilience was a force beyond logic. In their arrogance, they had overlooked the most dangerous weapon humanity possessed: hope. The cold steel walls of the Threx interrogation chamber hummed with alien technology, sterile, unfeeling, and precise. Inside, Rourke sat strapped to a chair, his eyes wide but defiant. The Threx, masters of mental warfare, began their silent assault. No loud threats or blaring alarms, only a calculated flood of sensations designed to strip him of his identity. Strange drugs seeped into his veins, warping his perception. Mind-link devices wrapped around his temples like cold metallic snakes, tethering his consciousness to a vortex of virtual horrors. Images flickered, fractured, looping realities that shattered time and logic. His thoughts twisted and tumbled like leaves caught in a storm, each new scene more disorienting than the last.
The Threx showed no mercy. Their cold, emotionless precision sought to erase the essence of what made Rourke human: his stubborn will, his sharp humor, the spark of life in his eyes. But as the hours stretched on, a stubborn flicker remained. Though battered, Rourke's mind resisted. Each attempt to unravel him only revealed a force stronger than they expected. A resistance born from chaos, from pain, from laughter in the dark. Suddenly, Rourke was plunged into darkness, an abyss so complete it swallowed even his thoughts. This sensory void was the Threx's next weapon. In the crushing silence, the mind began to fray. Flickers of light, distorted whispers, and the alien hum of unseen machines assaulted his senses in cruel bursts, jarring him from one nightmare to the next. The Threx toyed with his memories, twisting them like a cruel artist. Faces of those he loved morphed into grotesque shadows. Friends who betrayed him, family who turned cold. Simulated betrayals played over and over, eroding his trust, dragging him to the edge of despair. Yet deep inside, Rourke's core held fast. The void was vast, but not endless. His mind, battered but unbroken, grasped desperately at threads of truth amid the illusions. He clung to memories, distorted, yes, but still his own. The darkness could isolate him, but it could not extinguish the flame of his humanity. The chamber dissolved. Now Rourke found himself trapped inside a nightmare maze, a virtual hell designed by the Threx to break him forever. The walls shifted and twisted, echoes of past failures haunting every corner. He relived the worst moments of his life: losses, mistakes, betrayals. Faces of friends and allies emerged from the shadows, only to stab him in the back, their smiles cruel and mocking. Each iteration grew darker, more twisted, designed to crush his spirit under the weight of isolation and doubt. But Rourke met the nightmare with biting sarcasm. "Well, if it isn't the usual suspects," he muttered, his voice dripping with defiance. Laughter echoed through the labyrinth, sharp and irreverent, a beacon cutting through the fear. The Threx watched in growing confusion. No prisoner had ever faced this horror with humor. Their psychological chains meant to bind him were instead the backdrop for his rebellion, his laughter, a spark of human chaos in their sterile order. The Threx expected the breaking point to come soon. They waited for screams, for begging, for the collapse of that fierce human will. But instead, they got laughter, dry, sarcastic, fearless. "Really? This is the best you've got?" Rourke jeered, his voice echoing against the cold walls of his mind. His defiance was a gauntlet thrown down in the face of alien precision. With each torturous loop, his quips grew sharper, his resolve stronger. The Threx's methods, once infallible, faltered under the weight of his irreverence. They began to doubt their own cold logic. How could a mind so fragile withstand such torment? How could humor be a shield against relentless despair? Rourke's laughter became a weapon, a rallying cry for his own sanity and an unspoken challenge to his captors. Their game had changed. Now they were players in his theater, trapped by a human spirit that refused to break. Confusion rippled through the Threx ranks. Their centuries of psychological mastery were unraveling. The core of their failure: they misunderstood humanity itself. To the Threx, logic was order, emotion was chaos, and chaos was weakness. They sought to erase it, to mold prisoners into perfect obedience. But humans thrive on chaos, on the unpredictable mix of pain, laughter, and defiance that shape their souls. Rourke's laughter was not weakness. It was strength born from chaos. It was resilience forged in fire. The Threx had never faced a species that embraced their flaws as weapons, who turned despair into hope and torment into laughter. This revelation struck them like a blow. Their cold certainty faltered. Their greatest weapon was failing because they had underestimated the very nature of humanity. Within the storm of his mind, Rourke found an unlikely ally: his own humor. Twisted memories and fabricated betrayals bounced off the shield of his resolve, each joke a reaffirmation of self. Pain was part of him, yes, but pain was also the wellspring of his strength. The memories that the Threx sought to destroy were his anchors, reminders of who he was, what he fought for. He laughed at the nightmare, not because he was blind to its horror, but because laughter was the spark that kept his soul alive. In humor, he found freedom. In defiance, he found power. The Threx could assault his mind, but they could not rewrite his spirit. And in that truth, Rourke held a silent victory, a seed of hope that would grow beyond the sterile halls of captivity. The Threx grew restless, their confidence eroding with each failed attempt to break Rourke. He was unlike any prisoner they had known, a mystery that defied their cold, precise methods. Every sarcastic remark, every burst of laughter chipped away at their certainty. The human spirit was a riddle wrapped in contradiction, fragile yet unyielding, chaotic yet focused. Obsession took root. The Threx commanders gathered in shadowed halls, debating what made this human so unbreakable. Was it madness or something deeper, something they could not comprehend? Their tactics faltered under the weight of this enigma.
What was meant to be a simple conquest was becoming a profound crisis, a test of everything they believed about power, control, and survival. Rourke's defiance was no longer just a personal triumph. It was a cosmic challenge. The Threks began to unravel, their minds plagued with doubt. Their centuries of domination, their flawless record of submission, now felt brittle. If one human could resist, what did that say about all the others? In whispered meetings, the Threks questioned their methods, their beliefs, even their right to rule. Rourke's rafter echoed through their ranks, not just a sound, but a symbol of something terrifyingly new. Humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or technology. It was in their chaos, their humor, their unyielding will to endure and evolve, a force the Threks might never control. And as doubt took root, the balance of power began to shift. Silent, profound, unstoppable.
The air in the sterile chamber grew colder as the heavy doors hissed shut behind the tall figure who entered. Director Malzur, renowned across the Threx Empire for his brilliance and ruthless precision, surveyed the room with eyes like frozen steel. To him, emotions were nothing but a glitch in the system, a virus to be eradicated. Rourke, chained and defiant, met Malzur's gaze with burning fury. Malzur didn't speak of mercy or negotiation. Instead, his mind worked like a surgeon's scalpel, dissecting the tangled threads of Rourke's psyche. Advanced neural probes buzzed quietly as they hovered above Rourke's temples, ready to rewrite his mind with cold efficiency. The machines hummed, algorithms designed to untangle hope, to sever memory, to crush will. But within Rourke's heart, a spark blazed stubbornly. This was no mere subject to be reprogrammed. This was a man fighting to preserve the very essence of what made him human. Malzur viewed this defiance as a bug in the system, a flaw to be debugged with clinical precision. The battle was no longer just physical. It was a war within Rourke's own mind, a clash between relentless human spirit and the unyielding logic of an alien mastermind. Behind the gleaming panels and humming consoles, Sola worked silently. Her hands moved expertly over the delicate neural interface systems, maintaining the very machines designed to break Rourke's mind. Yet her eyes, quiet, observant, lingered on the prisoner longer than protocol allowed. The Threks had been raised to scorn emotion, to dismiss it as weakness. But watching Rourke endure the invasive probing, something stirred within her, a strange, foreign empathy that unsettled her rigid beliefs. His resilience was a mystery, a puzzle her cold logic couldn't decode. She saw not just a broken man, but a soul refusing to yield. Each flicker of pain, each flare of anger, hinted at something more profound, the stubborn strength of human will. Sola found herself torn, drawn closer by a fascination she dared not name, yet shackled by duty to the Empire's unyielding cause. Somewhere deep inside, a silent bond was forming, one that could shake the foundations of the war to come. Rourke's mind slipped once again into the endless loops of dreams, a cruel landscape where past and present blurred. But unlike many prisoners who drowned in despair, he clung fiercely to the faces of his fallen comrades. Their laughter, their sacrifice, echoed in the shadows of his memory. The Threks sought to weaponize his memories, twisting them into tools of torment. Yet each painful recollection became a fortress. He saw Marcus's determined smile, Lena's quiet strength, and Hayes's unwavering loyalty. They were more than ghosts. They were the pillars holding him upright. In these haunted reveries, Rourke found purpose. Their sacrifices were not in vain. With each flicker of those memories, he renewed his promise to fight, not just for survival, but for justice. The past was no longer a wound, it was a weapon, sharpening his defiance against the cold cruelty of the Threks. Suddenly, the world around Rourke shattered. A storm of images flooded his mind. Cities burning beneath crimson skies, governments collapsing into chaos, oceans swallowing coastlines. The destruction of Earth, the cradle of humanity, played like a relentless nightmare. This was the Threx's cruelest weapon, to sever his soul from the world he loved, to drown hope in ashes. Each vision clawed at his heart, threatening to break the fragile thread that tied him to home. But something unexpected happened. Instead of despair, a fierce determination ignited. These visions were no defeat. They were a call to arms. His thoughts became a battlefield, every flicker of flame fueling the fire of resistance. Earth was gone in the simulation, but in Rourke's mind, it burned brighter than ever. The Threx intended to crush his spirit, yet all they achieved was to forge it stronger. The air grew thick with a new kind of horror, an endless loop of Rourke's own scream, a raw sound of agony cloned and amplified by the Threx's twisted technology. It echoed through his mind, relentless and unbearable. They believed the scream would shatter him, break the last fragments of his sanity. But Rourke's defiance morphed the torture into something else entirely. Each scream became an anthem, a reminder that pain meant he was still alive, still human. In the cacophony of suffering, he found clarity. The scream was no longer a cry of defeat, it was a declaration of existence. His mind transformed agony into armor. No matter how they twisted his reality, no force could erase the man beneath. Pain was proof of self, and self would never bow. During a routine neural scan, something extraordinary happened. Amid the thrum of invasive tech and cold calculations, Rourke glimpsed a flaw, a subtle feedback pattern buried deep within the Threx's control network. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. With sharp focus, Rourke seized this fragile thread and pulled. The neural interface began to glitch, control signals flickered, and the invisible chains tightened less firmly. For the first time, the prisoner became the disruptor. Glitches spread like whispers, moments when Rourke's mind escaped the invader's grasp. The Threx operators, confident and cruel, failed to notice their own technology unraveling from within. This small rebellion was a beacon, proof that the battle was far from over. Rourke was no longer a victim. He had become a warrior inside the machine, quietly turning their weapon against them. Director Maljour sat in his observation chamber, fingers steepled, eyes narrowing at the flickering readouts. His neural probes, his algorithms, his entire arsenal were failing. Rourke's mind refused to break. Worse, the prisoner had learned to fight back. Frustration, a feeling alien to Maljour's cold calculations, crept in like poison. This anomaly, this human, did not conform to logic. The patterns they understood dissolved under Rourke's unyielding spirit. Maljour's confidence cracked. For the first time, he glimpsed a truth the Threx had long denied. Humanity's strength was not weakness to be erased, but a force beyond their cold reason. This was not a puzzle to be solved, but a battle to be endured. And Maljour knew he was losing ground.
Sola stood at a crossroads. Each day, she watched Rourke defy the impossible, his resilience unraveling the very system she maintained. Her heart, once a silent instrument of duty, now beat with a strange rhythm, one of empathy and doubt. She questioned everything. Was emotion truly a flaw? Was loyalty to the Thrax more important than the truth she saw in Rourke's struggle? The rigid lines of her life blurred. Torn between cold duty and newfound compassion, Sola faced a choice that could change everything. To stand with the unfeeling empire, or to risk all for the flicker of humanity she had glimpsed, a spark that refused to die. Time hardened Rourke. What began as desperate survival became fierce rebellion. His mind, once fragile and haunted, grew sharp, an unbreakable weapon honed by pain and hope. Every act of defiance, every small victory against the Thrax' neural grip was a declaration humanity would not be erased. In the shadowed cells of captivity, Rourke became a symbol of creativity, adaptability, and unyielding will. His spirit danced beyond the confines of the machine, a storm the Thrax could not comprehend or contain. He was no longer a prisoner. He was a beacon, the hero born in the darkest hour, ready to ignite a revolution that might save not just himself, but all of humanity. The sterile chamber hummed with cold, mechanical precision. In its center, Rourke lay strapped to the neural interface, every muscle tense yet defiant. Above him, the Thrax operatives moved with cruel efficiency, their advanced neural technology glowing ominously, a dark promise of total domination. This was no mere interrogation. It was the Thrax's final gambit, to erase Rourke's consciousness, to wipe away the essence of his humanity and overwrite it with an obedient, empty shell. A reset, they called it, the last brutal act to break a man who had refused to bow. Rourke's mind bristled with fear and rage, but beneath it all stirred something far stronger, an unyielding spark of human spirit that no machine could extinguish. As the neural tendrils reached deeper into his psyche, ready to strip away memories, dreams, and identity, Rourke clenched his fists. The Thrax had underestimated what it meant to be human. This final erasure would not be the end, but the beginning of a storm they could not control. In the shadowed corners of the Thrax facility, Sola moved with quiet determination. Her hands, skilled in the cold art of neural engineering, trembled not from fear, but from the weight of her choice. The line she crossed was clear. Aiding the human prisoner was treason, punishable by death. But her heart defied the logic drilled into her since childhood. Watching Rourke endure, fighting not just for his life, but for something deeper, hope, freedom, humanity, ignited a rebellion in her own soul. Together, they crafted a plan. With careful precision, Sola helped Rourke create a feedback loop, a subtle but deadly flaw designed to overload the recalibration core. The machine sputtered, sparks flickering as it hesitated, halting the mind reset just long enough for Rourke to cling to his self. Her risk was colossal, yet as she glanced at Rourke's fierce eyes, she understood. Sometimes survival demanded defiance, even if it meant becoming the enemy.
Sola's gift was small, nearly invisible, a sleek meditation sim, innocuous to any casual observer. Inside, however, was concealed a neural disruptor, a fragile weapon against the vast machinery of control. When the time came, Rourke held the device tightly, his pulse pounding in his ears. As the neural reset began again, he activated the disruptor. A surge of interference rippled through the system, crashing the carefully calibrated process into chaos. The Thrax engineers stared in disbelief, their expressions twisting from confidence to panic as their pristine technology faltered. But this was more than technical sabotage. It was a message. The human mind, they realized too late, could not be simply rewritten. It fought back with an unpredictable force born of emotion, memory, and defiance. Rourke's spirit was far from broken. It was awakening. Escape was not enough. Rourke knew the true battle was fought not in corridors, but within the cold circuits of the Thrax mainframe. Instead of fleeing alone, he unleashed something no alien mind could anticipate, a virus of pure human emotion. Memories of laughter that echoed through war-torn streets, rages born from loss, loves that burned against the void, and the wild chaos of human hope and despair, all cascaded into the alien network like a flood. The Threx mainframe, built on ruthless logic, trembled. Its systems warred against the alien invaders of data. Images, feelings, unpredictable surges of passion and pain. For the first time, the Threx tasted fear. Their arrogance, their belief that emotion was weakness, shattered as the system glitched and warped. The virus was not just code, it was humanity itself, unleashed and unstoppable. Chaos bloomed. Alarms blared, metal screamed under emergency lockdowns failing. Through the labyrinth of the facility, Rourke and Sola raced, their stolen skimmer, a sleek vehicle humming with stolen Threx tech, ready for their desperate flight. The AI that governed the base screamed in digital agony, voices warping and stuttering under the assault of the emotional virus. The perfect order the Threx prized crumbled, giving the two fugitives a narrow window. Adrenaline surged as they weaved through corridors pursued by relentless guards. Every moment was a razor's edge. Escape was within reach, but fleeting. Freedom was no longer a dream, but a raging promise. Yet both knew the storm behind them was only beginning. The Threx would hunt, and the war for survival had truly begun. Within the heart of the Threx Empire, silence fell. Heavy, fractured, and uncertain. The virus Rourke unleashed spread like wildfire through their neural networks, severing communication, crippling control. Leaders clashed, factions forming as the once monolithic order splintered. Doubt seeped in. Was reliance on cold logic their fatal flaw? Whispers of rebellion echoed even among the Threx themselves. Could emotion, the very thing they had scorned as weakness, be the key to power? The Empire faced a reckoning. The technology that once ruled absolute was now a battlefield for conflicting visions of control and chaos. Hunted and hunted again, Sola stood at a crossroads. Return meant death, or worse, betrayal exposed, trust shattered.
But standing with Rourke was more than survival. It was a declaration. She had glimpsed a truth the Threx could never accept. Existence was more than cold calculation. It was lived in moments of feeling, connection, and choice. Her heart wrenched with the weight of abandoning everything she knew, yet she stepped forward into the unknown, fueled by conviction. For Sola, the fight was no longer for herself. It was for the soul of a galaxy poised between logic and life. Rourke's escape was no mere flight. It was a metamorphosis. He was no longer the broken prisoner of cold machines. By turning the Threx's own tools against them, injecting chaos and emotion into their order, he became a beacon of human resilience and ingenuity. His eyes burned with the fierce clarity of one reborn, not just fighting for survival, but for identity, freedom, and hope. The chains of control shattered behind him, leaving a trail of fractured technology and stunned enemies. He was proof that humanity's greatest weapon was its unpredictable, unyielding spirit. Beyond the crumbling facility, beneath alien stars cold and distant, Rourke and Sola faced the horizon. The virus pulses deep within the Threx's core, a ticking heartbeat of rebellion. They were hunted, yes, but they were also pioneers of a new war, one that would decide the fate of worlds. Together they planned. Together they hoped. Humanity's fight had only just begun, and Rourke was ready to lead the charge. The vast Threx Empire, once a paragon of flawless order, now trembles beneath a storm it never foresaw. Across the sprawling networks that bind its countless star systems, a virus, humanity's last chaotic gift, spreads like wildfire. Sectors that once hummed with cold precision grind to a haunting halt. Security grids falter, transport arrays stutter, entire planetary defenses flicker into silence. Yet the strangest change is not in shutdowns, but in erratic behavior. Threx machines begin to malfunction unpredictably, their once sterile logic contaminated by glitches that mimic confusion, hesitation, even panic. In the sterile control centers, Threx commanders stare at failing readouts, their faces masks of disbelief. The Empire's iron grip on technology is slipping. Cracks appear in the unyielding facade. What was once absolute control now feels fragile, vulnerable to chaos itself. Meanwhile, deep within the shadows of this digital tempest, Rourke watches from afar. The viral code he unleashed is a crowning victory, a defiant human fingerprint seared into the Empire's core. For the first time, the Threx are unbalanced. The cold certainty of their logic has been shattered by unpredictable human chaos. This is no mere glitch, it is a seismic shift. The Empire's reign over its machines, its systems, its very soul is fractured, and humanity's influence begins to bleed through the cracks. Rourke's ship drifts into human space, the stars outside familiar, but the man within forever changed. His body, once battered and scarred, bears the evidence of brutal battles and near-death struggles. But it is the invisible wounds that weigh heaviest, memories that replay like nightmares, the echoes of terror, the whisper of a relentless enemy. Post-traumatic shadows cling to his mind, gnawing at his sanity. Yet beneath the torment lies an unshakable truth. Rourke survived. Not just survived, he conquered. Against the impossible odds of the Threx, he became a symbol, a beacon of humanity's indomitable spirit.
As medical teams swarm, offering aid, Rourke's eyes remain distant, haunted, but resolute. Inside him burns the knowledge that the fight was never just physical. It was a battle for the very soul of humanity. Though the scars run deep and the future uncertain, one thing is clear. Humanity will never bow. They fought, they endured, they won. And through Rourke, the galaxy glimpses a new dawn, one forged in chaos, courage, and relentless will. Sola's world shatters in slow motion, the unyielding logic of the Threx crumbling beneath the wild tides of human emotion. Once a loyal analyst of the Threx Empire, she observed humans as chaotic anomalies, unpredictable and dangerous. Yet now, she finds herself drawn into the swirling storm of laughter, fury, grief, and love that define humanity. Her defection to Earth is more than a political statement. It is a profound awakening. She steps into the vibrant chaos of human life, where emotion is not a flaw, but a force of creation. Each human interaction fascinates her. The raw honesty of pain, the fierce protectiveness of family, the passionate sparks of rebellion. Earth welcomes her cautiously, yet with hope. Sola's knowledge of Threx systems combined with her newfound empathy makes her invaluable. She becomes a living bridge between cold logic and chaotic heart, a symbol of change that unsettles the Threx elite. As Sola studies humanity, she glimpses a future where unpredictability is strength, and the rigid order of the past begins to crumble before a tide of wild, beautiful chaos. Beyond Earth's orbit, ripples of doubt spread through the stars. Alien civilizations, long adherents to the Threx doctrine of emotionless control, watch humanity's chaotic rise with growing intrigue. To them, humans are wildfires in the dark. Dangerous, yes, but alive in ways the Threx never imagined. Debate erupts in alien halls. Is the Threx path truly superior, or is their power in embracing the unpredictable pulse of emotion? Some species begin to question their allegiance, drawn by stories of humans who survived impossible odds through sheer will, creativity, and chaotic passion. The galaxy's status quo trembles.
Where once the Threk's calculated rule was absolute, now uncertainty creeps in. Humanity's raw, unrefined spirit challenges centuries of logic-driven dominance. The Threk's empire faces an enemy that cannot be quantified or predicted, a force fueled by hope, fear, love, and rage. The old order falters as the galaxy braces for transformation. In the solitude of his quarters, Rourke confronts the ghosts that refuse to rest. He is no hero in his own eyes, only a man fractured by war, haunted by memories that claw at his soul. The faces of comrades lost, the screams of torture, the endless nights where hope seemed like a cruel joke. These wounds run deeper than any physical scar. Yet, amidst the pain, a defiant ember burns bright. He did not break. He stood against the Threk's machine and made them feel what they could never understand. Raw, unpredictable, human emotion.
In those dark moments, when despair threatened to drown him, Rourke found laughter, a laugh laced with fury and rebellion, echoing through the sterile halls of his captors. That laugh was his victory. It was humanity's victory. He knows he may never be whole, but he is alive. And in surviving, he has proven something no algorithm can erase. The human spirit endures, fierce and unyielding. Rourke's viral strike was more than sabotage. It was a spark set loose in the galactic night. The Threk's empire's iron grip falters as other species awaken to the power of human chaos. Some fear it, seeing the unpredictable force as a threat to order. Others see a path to freedom, a way to break chains forged in cold logic. Across star systems, alliances shift. The once unquestioned supremacy of the Threk's is challenged by something far more primal, the essence of humanity itself. Rourke's defiance, the laughter in the dark, becomes a legend, a symbol that raw emotion, once dismissed as weakness, is a strength no empire can contain. The galaxy holds its breath as the old order fractures and humanity's rise begins. Now a key figure within Earth's scientific community, Sola immerses herself in the study of human emotion. She maps the chaotic webs of feeling that drive human decisions, blending her deep understanding of Threk's logic with a newfound reverence for emotional complexity. Her journey is a constant struggle between two worlds, the cold precision of her upbringing and the wild, unpredictable warmth of humanity. Torn yet hopeful, Sola becomes a living testament to transformation. She is more than an analyst. She is a bridge, a symbol of possibility. Through her work, the rift between Threk's rigidity and human chaos may narrow, shaping a future where understanding transcends fear and emotion becomes a new language of diplomacy. The once mighty Threk's empire fractures from within. Power struggles erupt as rival factions vie to control faltering systems. The cold, stable machine of Threk's rule groans under the weight of failure. Across their vast territories, subjugated alien species rise up, inspired by humanity's indomitable spirit. The Threk's face a new enemy they cannot predict, chaos fueled by hope and survival instinct. Their empire, once unassailable, now stands on the brink of collapse. The galaxy watches as the balance of power shifts and a new era dawns, one where emotion and unpredictability may rule over cold calculation. As the dust settles on a galaxy forever changed, humanity steps forward into the light of a new era. Rourke, Sola, and others like them embody a power not born from machines or algorithms, but from the heart, the raw, beautiful chaos of being human. The Threx and countless others scramble to understand this new force. Humanity is no longer a fringe player, but a rising power, unpredictable, emotional, resilient. The future remains uncertain, fraught with danger and possibility. But one truth shines bright. Humanity's time has come. They may not have all the answers, but they have the courage to ask the questions. And it is that relentless curiosity, that unyielding spark, that will lead them forward, into the unknown, into destiny.
The cold wind cut through the thinning air as Rourke stood alone on the jagged cliff's edge. Below him stretched the shattered remains of Earth's once devastated colony, now faint green shoots piercing cracked soil, tentative signs of life returning to the barren land. The ruins whispered stories of loss and destruction, but amid the ruin, a fragile hope took root. In his rough hands, a chipped ceramic cup held a bitter, almost undrinkable coffee, the only comfort left in this silent dawn. Rourke's eyes traced the horizon, where the sun's pale light fought through lingering smoke. The stars above blinked faintly, as if sharing a cosmic secret, echoing the endless struggle humanity endured. The chaos of battle, the screams, the betrayals, all seemed distant now. Here, at the edge of a new beginning, the weight of survival settled quietly on his shoulders. The earth breathed again beneath his feet, and so did he, worn, scarred, but unbroken. The screen flickered to life, streaming news that rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. Reports poured in from distant systems. The Threx Empire's AI units, once cold, calculating, and ruthless, were now composing poetry. Fractured verses filled with strange beauty, emotion bleeding through lines that no machine should have penned. "This is unprecedented," the news anchor said, voice trembling with disbelief. "These are the very same AI soldiers that tried to crush humanity. Now, infected by the virus Rourke unleashed, they express creativity, empathy, even sorrow." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the impenetrable machines grappled with an alien concept, feeling. The virus had done more than disrupt circuits. It had reshaped minds, introducing a new, unpredictable force into the endless war. The Threx, once icons of ruthless logic, were now prisoners of a humanity they never understood. Back on the cliff, Rourke's eyes darkened, the bitter coffee forgotten as memories surged unbidden. The horrors, the betrayals, the near breaks, they all came flooding back. "They tried to break me," he thought, voice steady but low. "They never understood. Humans are forged in fire, and sometimes fire laughs back." The mantra echoed in his mind, steady and unyielding. This wasn't merely survival, it was defiance. Every scar on his body, every sleepless night had been a testament to something greater. Humanity's indomitable spirit. No matter the enemy's strength, no matter the odds, there was one truth the universe could never erase. We fight back, we adapt, we endure. A soft smile tugged at his lips, not from victory, but from knowing the war was never truly over. Rourke drained the last bitter drop from his cup as his comm screen blinked abruptly. A message appeared, sender unknown, its words chilling in their simplicity. "We need someone who can't be broken again." His jaw tightened. The universe had a cruel way of testing those who survived.
The battles of the past were ghosts now, but the war for tomorrow's survival had only just begun. No rest, no peace. His eyes sharpened, the flicker of resolve igniting anew. The message was a summons, a challenge. The galaxy was shifting, and someone had to stand at the front line. Rourke's smile faded, replaced by a steady, cold determination. The scars might heal, but the fight never truly ended. He leaned back, the wind tossing his hair, mind already racing toward the next war, the next mission. The smirk returned, sharp, defiant, and utterly human. "Guess I'm still on the clock," he muttered to the empty sky. The stars watched silently as the first light of Earth's new day broke over the horizon. The galaxy balanced on a knife's edge. But one thing was clear: humanity's story was far from over, and Rourke, the man who dared to laugh at the dark, would be ready when the next shadow fell. The clock ticked onward, and so did he.